Welcome back to This Is How We Create. My name is Martine Severin, your host. I am so glad that you're here. So, story time. When my son was little, we had songs for everything, songs for naps, songs for everything. And not because I'm particularly musical, I'm not. I did this because I noticed something about transitions. Transitions are hard for small humans, and going from awake to asleep, from play to nap time, from chaos to calm, these shifts can be really jarring when you're 3 feet tall and the world feels super enormous. So we created bridges, and these bridges were musical ones. The morning began with "I Can Eat a Bowl of Cherries," and I could still sing it, though I will not. And so these are really silly. But at nap time, we had "You Are My Sunshine." And that song would repeat until he was just asleep. So when it came to bedtime, we had a 20-minute bath time routine that started with it's this Hawaiian singer. He's long since passed, but he has this song that is called "Somewhere Over the Rainbow." And funny thing, as soon as "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" came on, my son would get really, really sleepy and off he would go into naughty land. So we were listening to songs on the radio when we were doing this road trip from Iowa all the way back to Chicago. And funny thing, this song, "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," sung by Israel, came on. And I asked him, I was like, "Hey, buds, how does this song make you feel?" And you know what he said? He says, "Oh, it makes me feel really sleepy." And I kept my mouth shut. But then my mom was in the back of the car with us, and she's like, "We used to have this song on every time you fell asleep." So it is so funny how songs can really help us with transitions, and how they can help us think about, okay, now it's time to do this, now it's time to do that. I knew that I was creating a ritual for my son. And now that I'm a little bit older, and I've been thinking about, like, how do I rethink my artistic practice? And I find that creating rituals is really the way to do this.
This episode is brought to you by iCode. Every child starts as a creator. They imagine stories, build worlds, and ask big questions. But as they grow up, creativity can take a backseat to routine and screens. That's where iCode comes in. Through after-school STEM activities, iCode's programs give kids a space to create again. Visit icodeschool.com to book a free trial.
So these days, my mornings began with the same way. First, I do meditation. I drink hot water with lemon. I stretch and do yoga before I do anything else. And I do this because it's just habit by now. It's just something I started doing, and I kept doing it because my body knows these movements. They are bridges between sleep and wakefulness, and between the person who dreams and the person who makes things. And I really like waking up super early in the morning. But my creative work needs a kind of different bridge than my morning routine. So when I'm headed to the studio or when I'm going on location, I have a playlist that comes on. And this playlist comes on because I find that I need to be in a specific mood before I get on set. Because this playlist, it's my workout playlist and it's my high energy playlist. And it's super important for me because the last thing I want to do is go on set and be an energy vampire. And I try not to have anybody on my team who's an energy vampire because they just drain me. And so then these songs, they put me in like a high mood, and I'm able to get on set, and I'm able to, whether I'm doing creative work, whether I'm about to sit down to write, whatever it is, these songs are really perfect for it. So let's talk about what artists know about doorways. I had a chance to meet Twyla Tharp a few years ago where I had a chance to photograph her. And in her book, The Creative Habit, she talks about how she wakes up at 5:30, she puts on her workout clothes, and she hails a cab to the gym. That's her ritual, she says. Her ritual isn't the gym, it's the cab. The moment of getting in the cab, of giving the address, that's when her creative mind wakes up. So she gets in the cab, she gives the address to the driver. And that's it. That's when it all starts for her. So there are lots of places, there are lots of books that compile the habits of artists. So Beethoven counted exactly 60 beans of coffee each morning to make his coffee. Maya Angelou rented hotel rooms by the month and arrived at 6:30 a.m. with a bottle of sherry, a deck of cards, and her work. Doesn't that sound fantastic? Toni Morrison wrote before dawn when, as she put it, I am not the person I will be the rest of the day. I love these little quirks. And if I'm honest, I listen to a lot of podcasts with like all of the tech bros. If you think about Tim Ferriss or you think about Naval Navicant, like I listen to the tech bros. And what's interesting about listening to the tech bros, for a long time, Tim Ferriss would ask his guests, hey, what's your morning routine? And these guests would go on and on about how I wake up at like 5 a.m. I get up and I go and I have my, I don't know, like my dip in a pool that is negative 20 degrees and that wakes me up. And then I do all of these things until 10 a.m. And I always wondered, I know that these tech bros, they have kids. Who the heck is taking care of their kids? I guess the partner or the wife is, right? And for me, the reason I get up at super early, usually between 4:30 and 5:30, depending on the day, the reason I do that is because there's no little human who needs me at that time. It's just me time. And so I always think about Toni Morrison. I think about Maya Angelou and how they woke up early because they needed to get things done before the day started, not because they wanted to or they're morning people, but because that's how they could actually get things going. So let's talk about Stephen King. Stephen King writes in On Writing, that's a book, that he sits down at the same time every day with his vitamin pill, a glass of water, and it's positioned in the same spot. He talks about how it's not different than any bedtime routine. He says it's the cumulative purpose. The cumulative purpose is to tell the brain, you're about to do this very difficult thing. So get ready. Oh, I just love the fact that science backs up what artists have known for centuries. And let's talk now about why rituals matter and why it's not really woo. So, psychologists Michael Norton and Francesca Gino studied the impact of rituals and performance. And I'm so happy to share with you what they found. So, they found that remarkable people who perform rituals before high pressure tasks, even arbitrary ones like drawing a picture, they performed better and they reported less anxiety than those who didn't do a ritual. The rituals, in fact, they don't even really have to be meaningful. They just have to be consistent. And here's why. Consistency is so important to your brain because your brain is always scanning to see if you're in danger. And so rituals create this predictability. It creates a signal that, yes, we've done this before. Yes, we know how it goes. Now we can relax. And so then Andrew Huberman talks about how his focus and his work on performance. And what he says is that when you repeat the same sequence of actions before creative work, essentially you are training your brain to enter a specific state. It's a ritual that becomes a neurological on-ramp. And we've all heard how athletes, Olympic athletes, do the same thing. Michael Phelps does the same thing. He has a ritual he goes through before any game or any competition. Simone Biles even has the same routine. Kobe Bryant had a routine. Every single people had a routine. If these successful, super successful people had a routine, you can tell that a ritual slash routine, whatever you want to call it, could possibly work for you too. Now, let's go back and think about how things look like with the ancients as well as with cultures that are outside of the US. Japanese tea ceremony. The Japanese tea ceremony is a 4-hour meditation on presence. Every movement is choreographed. So the way you enter the room, the way you fold the cloth, the way you whisk the tea, all of it is not necessarily about the tea. It's about entering a state where nothing exists except for that specific moment. And in our trip to Japan that my family and I took, we had the chance to have this experience, and it was really wonderful. In the Yoruba tradition, rituals create ashe, which is a life force, which is an energy that makes things happen. So before important work, you honor the ancestors, you prepare the space, you mark the transition between ordinary time and sacred time. Isn't that wonderful? So in Hindu, the puja involves an elaborate preparation before prayer or work. There's a cleansing that happens, there's lighting of the incense, there's an offering of flowers. Preparation is actually the work. It signals what comes next matters. And you'll find that oftentimes a puja happens during important moments, kind of like a wedding. So, this is all to say, don't just start something to just do it. There's something in the US that has like a high importance on productivity culture. And, the one thing that we don't talk about that is that transitions matter, the threshold is sacred. So, the question that I have for you, what rituals can mark the beginning of your creative work? So, if you could design the perfect 5-minute transition into your work, what would it look like and what would it include? Maybe it's lighting a very specific candle. I have one that says, get the F to work. It helps. That's it for now. Stay creative, and I'll see you later, my friend.
Hi there. If you're loving this show, would you mind taking a quick second to leave us a 5-star review on your favorite go-to podcast app? While you're at it, subscribe to our Substack newsletter, Creative Matters. You can find the link to subscribe in the show notes. All right, that's all that I have for you today. Bye.